I register products, and they're normally agricultural-based products and also feed products. I register soil amendments, fertilizers, 25B exempt pesticides, biological products. Normally, product registration I do in the United States, which is in all 50 states, and then also in Canada.
That's great. And so you mentioned a little bit about what it is. Why is it valuable? Why would somebody do this kind of product registration?
So the benefits really would be to, I would say it's more about your customer. So it's really showing the customer that your product does what it says it's going to do. The label is accurate. It gives you a really good description of how to use the product and when and where. And then also it allows people to be able to look it up on the state registration list to know whether it's approved. And also, if you don't register your product and you're selling your product and the Department of Agriculture catches you, you will get fined. And
so it's required that you are registered.
And they could force you into a stop sale in that state. So it is actually a requirement to register a product.
Well, that's good. Good to know.
Yeah. And, with registration, one thing is you only really need to register in the states that you're selling into.
Okay.
You don't have to feel like you have to register like all 50 states. If your product isn't for a crop that's in one of those states, there's no reason to register it, because then you have to pay an annual renewal and things like that you might not need, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
is there a way to do like a one national registration, or is it's all state by state?
So the United States does not have one national registration. It doesn't exist, unfortunately. So, but Canada does. So Canada registration is quite a bit different than the US registration because it's way more detailed. It takes longer to put together. However, you're registered in the whole country and it lasts for 3 years. You have to renew it every 3 years, which is good and bad in itself, right? Because the registration process takes quite a bit longer than the United States.
And you do registrations for the US and Canada?
I do. And one of the big things about registering in Canada, which is important, so if you are going to export a lot of material into Canada, having that registration number is going to make it really easy to go through the border crossing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they actually have like I think it's a 6-digit, might be a 9-digit. I can't remember. It's either a 6 or 9-digit number that's put on all the registered products. And so they can look it up in their system, and it's really easy to come across the border then. So,
and are there real differences between like one state to the next in terms of requirements?
So there are different requirements from state to state, and that depends more on what type of product it is. So for instance, with a fertilizer, there's not quite as many rules of information you have to give. So for instance, you have to show like a heavy metal analysis to prove that you're not putting heavy metals on something. And also I would say you have to also show like a guaranteed analysis. So it actually shows what your NPK or micronutrients are. With a soil amendment, it's a little different. Normally you have to show efficacy data proving that it actually works. And the efficacy data can be quite detailed because you have to support your product claims. So whatever you're claiming on your product, like, increases yield by 50%, you would actually have to show that in the efficacy data that is actually a true claim. So it's really verifying that the product is what it is actually claiming on the label. So some states will require more efficacy data than others. For 25B pesticides, efficacy data is definitely required. And that normally 25B pesticides, we're kind of like nervous about those. They're normally essential oils and things like that are more like a natural rather than a chemical response. So they're naturally made oils that, I would say reduce, more like reflect bugs. I don't know if you would say reduce them so much. But
yeah. And that's great, because then that would really help you, I would think, if you sell these products to lower your risk. If you're proving that what you're saying is true, it gives you an extra level of credibility.
Right. Also, I think the big thing is that when you are approved by the states, like each state will have like a list of approved products that you can use in agriculture, and it makes the list really easy for a consumer to like just be able to go and look at a list to know like what they can and can't use easily on a farm. So if they had questions about something or were unsure if that product was safe, they would be able to look it up and see if it's on the list that it was approved.
So who should get a product registration done?
I would think manufacturers of products. And also, if you are a distributor that you buy a product from a manufacturer and then you relabel it, you would also need to get a product registration.
And we're talking agricultural products, right?
Yeah, agricultural. So, so these are just I only register agricultural-based products and also feed supplements. So,
right. Okay. And when in the process should they have this done, or should they start this?
So you would actually want to register prior to selling into a state.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be any. So that would be just any state you would choose that you were going to sell in or distribute into. You would want to make sure you're registered first.
Well, and that goes into what are the risks involved if you don't register a product. So obviously you could be fined, but are there risks in terms of like if something happens with your product and it's not registered, are you more at risk for a lawsuit or things like that?
I think that would definitely be a possibility, is you could be at higher risk for being sued because you were not truthful about the product in the first place, or else the state didn't know that you were using it.
Right.
And for instance, if you're using a product that's not registered, and perhaps like it has a lot of heavy metals in it and you didn't know, and that analysis was never taken care of, and it could be actually polluting your ground, like that, or else it could be making false claims that it perhaps doesn't actually work as well as it says it does, and there'd be no one to really regulate and say whether that is true or not.
Yeah. And what is the cost of doing a service like this, and how long does it usually take? Like, what is the time frame?
So if you're going to register all 50 states, it normally takes me about 50 hours to complete. Mm-hmm. Some registrations take a little bit longer, some take a little bit less time, just depending on the state and depending on how much paperwork is involved with each of those registrations. And the cost kind of varies depending on the type of product it is, and what kind of registration you're going for.
And is there anything else you'd like to add or let people know about this service? Or
well, I can also help you build your labels to make sure you have all the right content on the labels. Sometimes that's kind of a challenge to know what analysis to get to put on the label for your graded analysis and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then that would be the main thing. I think the label is the hardest part actually of the registration process and making sure it's correct.
Mm-hmm. And do you guide them through like what kind of information they need, or like if this is their first time doing a product?
Oh yeah, I would help them. I can give them a template of information that they would need to supply for the label itself.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Avril. This is great information.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for your time.